Yeah, and he tries to overplay that dad role.
Oh, yeah.
Let me pay for your gas money over here,
That was great.
and hey, I just want to be a friend. You were my friend. You were my best friend.
Welcome to Holiday Film Countdown. I'm Jamie Walter, and today we are going to San Francisco.
That's right. This film is Four Christmases, our 37th ranked holiday film. Hello, I'm Tim Walter. This is a modern take on family dysfunction, but it's the holiday season and traditional undertones rise up and play out in the end.
Our first guest is Jill Stockmaster. Hello, Jill. Please let us know what you're drinking and give us a quick thought on Four Christmases.
Hello, I'm drinking Deep Eddy vodka tea. It is lemon flavored. And my thought on Four Christmases is everybody has somebody in their family that's dysfunctional. It's relatable.
Sure, not in your family, but okay.
Of course not.
No, of course not.
Speaking for everyone else.
Yes.
So, our other guest is Hank Hemmrich. Hi, Hank. What are you drinking? And what's your initial thought on the film?
I am having mint flavored Deep Eddy vodka and tea,
Oh, there we go.
and I thought the film was hilarious and also highly relatable. And even though it was really funny, I thought it was really kind of a deep movie that had something to say.
Yeah, I agree with that one. I'm also drinking Deep Eddy tea, and mine is peach flavored. It's pretty yummy. You should try it. And I feel like the first thing that comes to mind when I think of Four Christmases is family dysfunction.
Okay. And I'm drinking plain old HEB sparkling water, lemon flavored. We're kind of mid-afternoon here, so I'm trying to hang with this crew. Anyway.
Can't drink all day if you don't start in the morning.
Okay, thank you. We'll get that changed real quick. And on this film, it's placed in the countdown higher than you would think a film with these reviews would be. But the comic family scenes are just too much to hold it down. So here it is.
Yeah, Four Christmases was written by four writers. Of note to us is Scott Moore, who wrote our 49th film, Bad Moms Christmas. It was directed by Seth Gordon. He also directed Horrible Bosses and Baywatch. And his better work, though, has been directing TV episodes such as The Office, Parks and Rec, and Modern Family.
Yeah, Four Christmases was filmed and released in 2008, during a writer's strike, by the way. So changes to the script could not be made during filming. And as mentioned, there are four writers here, so we'll talk about how that all played out later. The outdoor scenes were filmed in the Bay Area while the interior filming was done at Renmar Studios in Hollywood. Reese Witherspoon and Vince Vaughn are the co-leads, with a star-studded cast playing their extended families. We will discuss these actors and others later.
So, Jill, what's your history with Four Christmases? Have you seen it before, or is this your first time?
I've seen it before.
How many times? A lot?
Honestly, I haven't seen it that many times. I would say that was probably my third time seeing it.
All right.
And Hank, what's your history with Four Christmases? Did you know it already?
I believe that was my third time seeing it also, but it's been a long time ago since I saw it last, prior to today.
Well, it looks like we're all around in the same vote here. It's my third or fourth as well, seeing the movie, so it's not something that obviously has been around all that long. Didn't grow up watching it, but have seen it a few times.
Yeah, similar here. It comes on TV sometimes, so you catch the middle, the funny parts in the middle. Jill had actually mentioned this film to me years ago, and that led us to tie her to this film. She said it was hilarious and we need to watch it, and it was great to see it from the start because I think the beginning's fun, and it probably gets missed a lot if you're just flipping channels and coming upon it.
All right, let's check out the trailer.
We gotta get through these four Christmases as painlessly as possible.
Too much information. I'm hoping for a chance to be your friend.
Well, you were my friend, but now you're sleeping with my mom, and it's a little bit weird for me.
Too much intimacy.
This Christmas, I would like to give more of myself to Pastor Phil.
Too much family.
I live on it.
For two people to take.
My brothers, the cage fighters. My dude cockfighters.
Vince Vaughn, Reese Witherspoon, Four Christmases.
Well, I feel like the trailer did a good job of picking out some of the funny parts, but I feel like in the trailer, because you don't have all the content behind it and the context, I guess, that it's coming from, to me it didn't feel as funny as it did when watching the movie. What do you think, Jill?
Honestly, I kind of viewed Brad as being more self-centered in the trailer, and like you really weren't pulling for him. But then as you watch the movie, you understand his background and why he's the way he is, and it makes you want to pull for him a little bit more.
I thought it was funny. The trailer accurately represented the movie as much as you can in a trailer. It's just a few seconds, but maybe it's hard for me to be objective because I've seen the movie. And
Right.
when I see the trailer, I can't help but laugh.
Yeah, it is funny.
And it had funny scenes in the trailer, but there are a lot more than that,
Absolutely.
Yeah,
which
it's
is
hilarious.
cool. Sometimes you get every funny scene. There's plenty more.
Right. I feel like it didn't give the whole story away at all, like sometimes trailers can do,
Yeah.
for sure.
Okay. Well, let's go into the numbers. Four Christmases grossed 120 million at the U.S. box office and 48 million internationally for a worldwide total of 168 million dollars.
Wow.
Very high, one of the highest so far in this countdown, definitely.
Yep.
It cost $80 million to make for a net profit of around 88 million. It also had 36 million in DVD sales. So adding that in, it made over $120 million after expenses. And it's also near the end of that era of DVD sales because coming into the 2010s, folks weren't really buying DVDs anymore. We're entering the streaming era there.
Yeah.
This was the number one film Thanksgiving weekend 2008, dethroning Twilight, the original Twilight, not the sequel, which had debuted the prior weekend. It was number one then. So it's pretty powerful. And that kind of speaks to where Vince Vaughn was at that time, coming off of some of his other films, which we'll discuss briefly later. Four Christmases had a Letterboxd score of 2.6 out of 5, and we'll all give our own reviews and scores later.
All right. Well, I think part of some of that cost of the 80 million to make is probably the star power that we have. What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, Sissy Spacek.
Yeah. Pulled out a lot, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the dad's name again? Brad's dad. Who plays him?
Robert Duvall.
Yeah.
Robert Duvall, he's
Yeah.
a huge star.
I know, right?
Yeah, these were all big names. Even if they were past their prime, they still had some power. They're still marketable names. So you're talking of that 80 million. I'm guessing easily 50 million was in cast talent fees.
Yeah, I agree. Agreed. All right, well, let's get into the tropes, the holiday tropes. We can start off with there really wasn't a Santa. I don't remember seeing a Santa. Did we see a Santa? No?
No Santa.
No Santa in this one.
Okay.
We did see decorations at the houses that they went to.
Each appropriate for the house.
Absolutely. And the house appropriate to the personality
Absolutely.
Yeah.
of it. But there wasn't snow, so we didn't see snowmen or any
No,
of that.
just fog. We were in the Bay Area, so it was
yeah.
foggy.
Yeah.
What about now? The big trope I'm seeing here is really the exit word, mistletoe.
Yeah, but we didn't see mistletoe, did we? No, we didn't see it. We
Okay.
just heard it. We just
Correct.
heard it. Yeah.
But I like that usage of that word. Double meaning there.
Yeah, I agree. But as far as decorations, nothing really stood out too much in this film. It was more about the storyline.
Yeah, it was pretty light. We had a beautiful perfect tree at Kate's father's house.
Yeah.
Had the beautiful perfect tree.
Which
That one seemed
was
to
a
be
beautiful,
most put
perfect
together.
house.
Yeah, that one was put together. He had gotten his act together by the time we get around to him. Mm-hmm. No reindeer, no elves.
Nope,
So,
none of that.
all right. Let's get into the characters and actors. So, plenty to unpack here. And we'll get into the main two and then uncover the others as we move through the timeline of the film. So, we had Reese Witherspoon as Kate. Most know her from Legally Blonde and Sweet Home Alabama. She won the Oscar for Best Supporting Actress for her portrayal of June Carter Cash in that Johnny Cash biopic called Walk the Line. I'm sure you all saw that.
Yes.
Do you remember her in that?
Yes, I do.
Strong. And what do we think of her job in this film? How'd she do?
I think she did a great job. I think she played the character well.
Yeah,
Are you generally a fan of hers?
I am. I thought she was great in Legally Blonde, too.
Oh, yeah.
She's played this character, I feel like, before. She's good at it. Sweet Home Alabama.
Just really well put together, smart,
Yeah.
kind of successful, up and coming.
I agree. On
Type,
Sweet Alabama, it was the same way.
But then has the the good-hearted family background. I don't know. I feel like she does this character well.
But in this role, she actually had kind of a dark past, not really dark, but a tragic childhood
Yeah.
where she had suffered a lot from her other children making fun of her, and she was, can you say, obese as a child? And
Slightly.
yeah, and was really super awkward, and you don't see that in her character as an adult. She seems so like she's
together.
got her stuff put together so well.
Yeah, Jill, how did you feel about how her sister treated her?
I thought that her sister wanted her to be a little bit more lighthearted and really take on the family values. And I think it brought it out in her, what she really wanted.
Yeah, true, because before she got there, she didn't want to have kids, right?
Right.
And then she saw her sister with the baby, and then she thought there was a chance that she might be pregnant, so she ended up taking that pregnancy test. And then while she's waiting for the results, she was like, I kind of got excited just knowing the possibility, even though it was negative.
Yep. Despite the spit up in her nice black dress and all
Yeah.
that cleanup that was involved and poopy diapers and all that stuff, she was a little bit interested.
Yep.
And you could tell by the tone of the music changed in the background when her sister was carrying the baby across the room. That was the first sign that we might be going somewhere else in this film. All right, and then we also have the other lead, Vince Vaughn. He plays Brad, also known as Orlando. He's mostly a comedic actor known for big hits like Old School and Wedding Crashers. And he was in our number 50 holiday film, Fred Claus. And it's very interesting because in reading the reviews of all these films, that one was considered very dark. And this one was considered very dark. But this one had more light moments
Definitely.
and probably a happier ending. But we'll get to the ending later. But it broke up earlier. I feel like Fred Claus at the very end, it got happy, but like for 30 seconds at the very end.
Right. Well, I feel like Vince Vaughn did his thing. We saw a few of his rambling quickly, I don't know what you call that he does.
Stream of consciousness, kind
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Just flowing out of him.
of. Yeah.
The thing we all have inside, but we can't articulate like him as quickly.
There's no way I can get it out that quick.
Just moving through the words, and yet you can understand it with a comedic flavor to it, right? He's being serious, but he's deep down inside, he thinks he's being funny.
Yeah. You think he thinks he's being funny?
Yeah, I don't think he is. I think that's just him.
Me too.
Yeah.
I think that's
It's
the way
funny
he-
to us.
Yeah, I think that he's serious, right?
He'd
Just
be
That's
interesting
what
to
makes
hang
it
out
funny.
with.
That's
'Cause
right.
He's like seriously making all these points, and then, but it's funny.
All right, and then moving through the cast, we have Brad's father, played by Robert Duvall. His name's Howard here. He played Tom, the consigliere in The Godfather. Pretty much the best movie ever made. Countdown. And Robert Duvall was super prolific. 147 different roles listed on IMDb. I mean, he's an actor's actor.
Oh, yeah.
Iconic roles. He's won his Oscars. He's been nominated multiple times. I think he's been nominated 4 times and won 1. That's a pretty good record. What do we think of Howard in this film?
I think he played it very well. I mean, he had the look, he had the attitude. I think he fit this character head on.
Does anyone here know Howard in real life? Hey, Howard?
No, I don't think so. I think I'm glad I don't, but
Yeah.
seems
Yeah, I don't
very
think so either.
close-minded. It's this way or no way.
And full of bad advice.
Yes.
That was probably what made Brad turn away from his decision to avoid responsibility and avoid really growing up and adulting all the way. It was when his dad told him that, hey, you're making great decision, here, getting rid of Tiny. You're the smart one after all. And then he starts thinking, oh, I'm going to end up just like my dad, here by myself, drinking on the front porch, just a bitter old man.
On Christmas.
Alone on Christmas night. If you noticed, he was alone.
And that's what probably really pushed him over the edge, because he was already right there,
But didn't he play that part so well? I mean, it was kind of exactly what you thought he might say, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I thought he did a good job.
Because, he was, honestly, before he said it, I didn't think so. I thought he was going to tell him to grow up and she was a great girl. But then when he did say it, I was like, okay, yeah, that makes sense, because that's who he really is. That's who he really is. He's just a bitter old man.
He was bitter still from his kids' mother leaving
The divorce.
the divorce.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he was still bitter over that. And so I felt like he never moved past that. So he didn't view relationships well.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, moving on. We then meet Brad's brothers, Dallas and Denver, played by Tim McGraw, country music icon, and Jon Favreau, who is an actor and in recent years, more behind the scenes creator of great films. So Jon Favreau actually is the director of Elf, which is an elite holiday film. He was in Elf as the doctor, by the way, too. If you remember the paternity
Yes.
doctor.
I do remember
Yeah.
that.
He
now.
played that
Yeah.
part. He was in Rudy, which is one of my favorites. He played Rudy's friend in college. And I didn't even realize that was him until we were starting to put this episode together.
Yeah.
Because he got in really good shape
Yeah.
for the role. So how do we think Dallas and Denver did? Tim McGraw?
He didn't really have too much to say, but he definitely had the look. I think he had to do some reshaping of his body to make this part. He was a little overweight, kind of putting on the beer belly, which was definitely appropriate for his character.
Yeah.
So I thought he did good. He looked the part.
And he learned some good stunts. I mean,
True.
you know,
He was part in that floor wrestling, what do you want to call it, that they were doing.
a
Yeah.
beat down on his brother.
Yeah.
Tim McGraw is a singer first, but he was in The Blind Side also.
Yeah.
He can act. He's not Jon Favreau or Robert Duvall level
No.
acting, but he can act.
Yeah.
What'd you think, Jill?
I think he did a great job, and I think both the brothers, they fed off each other, and they both did a good job doing that.
The way brothers would do in real
Yes,
life. Or
absolutely.
siblings in general.
Are you a Tim McGraw music fan?
Not really,
Okay.
but
Do you know it?
I know some of his music just because I'm in Nashville, Tennessee. But I wouldn't say I would be drawn to his music.
Our oldest kid was so into Tim McGraw at some point. It was all he played for about 6 months. Tim
I
McGraw.
like his music.
He can sing. So, of note, I'll just give a little plug here. Reese Witherspoon and Tim McGraw, both born in Louisiana.
Yeah.
Just a note. All right. Mary Steenburgen. She plays Marilyn, who is Kate's mom. So Kate's mom is the one who is involved with Pastor Phil,
The cougar.
the cougar, and she has a cougar den.
Yes, she does.
And, well, we'll get into the scenes, but
Yeah.
she nails that role.
She
She's
does.
actually married to Ted Danson, by the way. I don't know if y'all knew that.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's her husband. I
Oh,
think they've been
interesting.
together for at least 20 or 30 years. So,
Okay.
but she's one of those actresses, you kind of know her name because she pops up in all these films.
I think you kind of know her face.
Face, yeah.
Yeah.
I recognize her face, but I'm like, what's her name?
She's an elf. She's
Yeah.
Buddy's mom in Elf.
Yes, yes.
Or a stepmom.
Yeah, she has that good mom look, I feel like.
And that mom voice.
Yeah.
Very calming. And
Yes.
just, everything's going to be all right.
Yep. Yep. Ground you.
She's a steadying influence. So she's probably not acting. She's probably just being herself.
Yeah, both those movies, when you think of her being in those movies, she was the calm.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's good at it.
And then Kristen Chenoweth, who is actually a Broadway singer, plays Courtney, who is Kate's sister. And she was in our number 48 film, Deck the Halls. She was married to Danny DeVito in that film, so that was really believable. But
Oh,
anyway,
yeah, yeah. That brings me back. Okay.
yeah. And
Now
she,
I recognize her, yeah.
she was fun.
She's funny too. She seems so believable as that southern
Blonde role.
blonde role. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I'll
Totally believable as the sister.
all put together, kind of a little bit of a busybody, directing Kate. She had ideas about how Kate should be living her life, I believed. Mm-hmm. She's got her baby. She wants another. Okay. And Hank mentioned earlier we have Sissy Spacek here. She plays Paula, Brad's mom. And that's the one who is with Brad's old best friend.
Yeah.
So that's a bit of a callback to American Pie, I'm thinking. Do I remember American
It was
Pie?
super awkward. I mean, there are a lot of awkward moments in this movie, but it's funny, but awkward at the same time.
Well, you know what's funny is for Kate's mom, it's like, oh, I got to warn you, it's a cougar den. But in reality, she's the real cougar.
Oh, that's right. Brad's
Because-
mom is the cougar.
Brad's mom is really the cougar, even though it's not mentioned anywhere, but she's dating her son's best friend from childhood. Like, what? You know?
Yeah, and he tries to overplay that dad role.
Oh, yeah.
Let me pay for your gas money over here.
That
and,
was great.
and hey, I just want to be a friend. You were my friend. You were my best friend.
I love it.
Yeah. Until you start sleeping with my mother.
Yeah,
I
and
mean,
that
that's
just-
awesome.
Those scenes going from house to house. We're about to get into the scenes, but
It makes you understand like why they went to these elaborate lengths to avoid going to their families' houses,
Yeah.
because you can't blame them really. You're just like, okay, well, this is what you're facing at your house. Then, yeah, maybe do avoid them.
Yeah.
Well, and they kept their younger years' life so private from each other that they also didn't want to be called out,
good
Yeah,
point.
which they were.
That brought exposure, right?
Exactly.
Going into those homes opened up some photo albums and
Right.
trophies, and
And how they weren't so well put together when they were younger at all.
yeah, it
And
gives-
still they're really not.
it should give all
It's
teams
just-
hope. You can get your act together. All right, and the last one we'll cover appears toward the end. John Voight, who has also been over 100 films. He is better known now as Angelina Jolie's father. He plays Creighton, who is Kate's father, and he's the one who kind of ties them all in together at the end and sets it up for the final scenes with his words of wisdom to his daughter. So how did John Voight do here?
I think he did well. I think he did well to show her that even in the craziness, things can change and you can pull things together and realize that family is the most important, even when they're probably not perfect, because no one is.
All right.
Well, the thing that he mainly pointed out was that when you're honest, ultimately it leads to the best outcome. Even though it can be painful and difficult to be honest in the moment, that it's always going to lead to the best outcome. So I thought that was
Even though it hurts in the moment.
right.
But
Yeah.
you're thinking long term here,
Yeah.
not right now.
Yeah, I think he has a very serious look to him. And so I feel like he did a good job with this role because he has, well, obviously he's older, so he has that fatherly look to him. But I feel like the look on his face sometimes is very serious. Like I could feel his concern when he was looking at Kate. So I feel like he did a pretty good job of being that serious father role of concern and trying to guide her through this difficult time.
Yeah, and when we get into the scenes, we'll talk about how his other daughter kind of helped bring the family back together. And so he wants Kate back in the fold as well, is
Right.
what I'm seeing.
Right. Yeah, because she hadn't been in, what did they say, 5 years or something like that.
Yeah, he was the one who could see through their schemes.
Right.
Yeah, he knew all
He knew.
along.
He knew. They were lying.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, was there any minor character who stood out to you all? Someone who we haven't listed who just jumped up and got your attention?
I'm not sure. Let's see. It was Denver, the John Favreau character. I loved his character. He was just so hardcore. The way he would stare at his brother, it was so intimidating, and he was so believable in the role. And he kind of was beefed up for this role, and he was all tattooed up, and he just looked like a UFC fighter, and he definitely put some moves on his brother.
Yeah, I'd like to know the backstory on the training for this film because that guy put in some work. If you see him in other films, that's not his natural build.
Yeah, but
Good
he
for
was hilarious, and he was believable at the same time for me. I liked it. Was
It
fun.
shows that a true pro can get to the role. That's what separates the real deal from just a wannabe.
Yeah.
I think it's funny. I would point out the newscaster woman, the news reporter, because she knew they were very uncomfortable, but yet she was like, let's talk to this couple. And they're both, like deer in the headlights look and not able to pronounce sentences. And she's just standing there like, keep it going. She's
It
like,
was on live TV. It was
yeah,
on live TV.
It was on live TV, and she just kept at it and just kind of let them fumble over their words and like, oh my goodness, what are we gonna do?
And the funny thing is, he's so extremely articulate all the time, but they put that camera in his face, and he couldn't make
He
a
did a good
sentence.
job with that.
He couldn't make a sentence.
Right. And
At
because he
all.
was being called out, right, for his
Yeah.
lies, so to say, like for the vacation and then the child at the end.
What'd y'all think of Pastor Phil? That was Dwight Yoakam, by the way, a country singer.
Oh yeah, I didn't even realize that.
I'll be honest. I kind of hated the way they portray Christians in this movie. That was the only thing about the movie that I didn't absolutely love. It's not
It's Hollywood.
It's Hollywood's idea of what a church might be like because they've never set foot in one. And I didn't like it. I'm just being honest.
Yeah, I mean, there are probably 18 different types of Christian churches you could walk into,
Yeah.
but a certain type's going to make a movie more funny.
Yeah, yeah, and it was funny, but
Yeah.
I mean,
I didn't particularly like the way they portrayed him.
yeah, I thought it was
He
hilarious.
was worse than Joel Osteen.
All right, well, that kind of leads us into the scenes.
Well, okay. I want to start off right away talking about the first scene. I'm like, I really didn't like. I was a little turned off by it. I'm like, what the heck is going on?
What was the scene about?
Okay, so it's when she's at the bar. Well, they're both at the bar, and he's hitting on her, and we don't know that they know each other at this point. We think it's just like the first time they're seeing each other, and he's coming on to her, has all of his pickup lines, and she kind of engages, and then she's like, I'm going to stop you right there, and then it gets a little like they start calling each other names, and it's just like, what is going on? To me, I don't know. It could be, I was just kind of turned off by that scene. And then later you realize, oh, they're role playing. They really know each other. But you go through it kind of quick. And then I was kind of like, do we even need that scene in there? But after you keep going, I know it's trying to show their fun-loving, lighthearted side to them where they can go out and make up, I don't know what you call it, other than role-playing for their foreplay, I guess. And I know they're trying to portray them to be, not have, I don't know.
So it's the first clue that they need something more.
Right.
It's just the two of them, and they're
You're so
looking for
Shocking.
something.
You're so profound, Tim Walter. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
It's shocking. That
It
kind of
is.
shocks the viewer. You're like, what?
Oh, and it's like, what are we in for here?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was.
So it captures your attention. I will say that.
It does, but you're right. It's like, just being us two is no longer good enough. We got to role play, right? We got to be other characters besides ourselves. I don't know. I really didn't like that scene. How'd you feel, Jill?
No, I would agree because it's like they're having to be someone else to appeal to their partner. And I think as women, we look at things a little bit more deeper and it's like, I don't want to be somebody else, if,
Right.
to attract you and to,
To turn you on, I need to act
Yeah.
like I'm someone else. Like,
Right.
what?
I mean,
And,
so
and
I
they
don't
kept
really
saying
like
that too, didn't they? Did you like, they even had different names. I can't remember the names right now, but did you like, and he was like, yeah, I really like that character. I really,
Yeah. I agree.
And then with the dancing scene where they're taking dance lessons, right? They're taking dance lessons and they're with a bunch of other couples that are taking dance lessons for their wedding, which is pretty common to do, right? And then they ask them, are you...
So when are y'all getting married? When's the
when are you
big
gonna-"
day?
Yeah. And they're like, what? Married? No, why would you think that? We're just doing this for fun. That
Yeah.
scene is another telltale to what's coming, right?
Right. I was trying to think of how are they doing with the dancing? Were they genuinely enjoying it?
Yeah.
Because
They seem to.
as long as they're doing that, as a hobby or for fun, some folks do that.
Oh, absolutely. Some folks do it. It was just the way they portrayed it, I think.
Not
in
us,
this
by the way.
What was so funny about it is they just totally ruined the vibe. They're all at the end of the dance class and everybody's in good spirits. And then he starts saying what he thinks about marriage. And,
Yeah. And he goes on and on about
And on and on. You can just see it on their faces. They're totally crestfallen.
And in the true Vince Vaughn way, right?
Yep.
I mean, he is just spilling it out about marriage,
Yeah, he
how
was saying
he felt.
he'd rather be hunted by a millionaire on an island than to be involved in a marriage where you have
Right.
to have all these vows. It was
Yeah.
it was funny, and then but good luck. I mean, it seems like a great idea.
Yeah,
For to each his
go
own.
for
To
it.
each his own.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it kind of set us up to know what's coming, right, in the future of the film.
So when's the big day?
I'm sorry?
We're getting married in the spring in South Carolina. Yeah. What about you guys?
Oh, we're not getting married. Oh.
So why are you taking dance classes?
We do a lot of stuff together. That's just one of many things that we do together.
Yeah, it's fun.
In fact, I can't think of anything that we don't do together.
Right. So why wouldn't you want to get married?
Well,
We're happy.
We're happy.
Yeah.
And I love her. So, marriage just kind of brings pressure and stress and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, we don't want our relationship to turn into work. We just want to be together because we enjoy it, not because we have to, you know?
It's like there's a reason that they use the expressions tying the knot or ball and chain.
Have you ever listened to the words of a marriage ceremony? Like a promise to obey? Or till death do us part?
Also, right away was the office party, where I think it's Brad's office party, and he's talking to two coworkers, and they start talking about what they have to do for the holidays. I have to go sleep on someone's musty sofa or in the basement, and they're just kind of rattling it off, and Brad's like, "Why do you do that?" And they're like, "Because it's the holidays. We have to be with family. That's what we do." And they're both like, "Why? No, you don't."
Yeah.
So they don't.
Yeah, they choose not to until they do. Go with their family, right?
So anyone got their favorite scene? What you got? Or the best scene?
For me, I think it just has to be when they go to Brad's dad's house and his relationship with his brothers. I mean, it's pretty far-fetched, but in my head, but it is just hilarious of the dynamics between him and his two brothers.
And his dad.
And even just the brother's wife, so it would be his sister-in-law that's pregnant with the baby, and just everything that's going on there with the satellite. No, it's not a satellite, it's a satellite dish, and how they're up on the roof and the brothers are making fun of him, and he's like, "Oh, real good, you're mocking me for having an education," or something like that. It was so funny.
And then he falls off the roof.
Yeah.
He's pretty okay.
Yeah.
Because
he holds on.
Because the cable kept him from falling all the way off. But it's hanging by just a thread. And you know that it's giving way, but he doesn't know it's giving way. And then he falls the rest of the way off the roof. That was hilarious.
It was so well done. I loved
really
all
was.
the little...
That scene was great.
The tacks flying out of the wall where the cable had been tacked up inside.
Yeah.
And it knocks down the things off the wall.
It's so unrealistic, but just hilarious because it's not going to really lift the TV to the corner.
Into the corner.
An old heavy TV from the that's a 90s TV. And just that whole part gets me every time.
Hits the floor and catches on fire.
Well, and he just can't catch a break, right? When he's there at the house, like finally Kate told him, "You just need to demand respect and set some boundaries with your brother, because they are obviously don't respect him and keep beating up on him." And it's just funny. He's like, "Okay, you're right. I'm going to do it. So he walks out and he's trying to demand respect, and they just take him down to the floor again. I mean,
that's the only way they know how to react.
I know. They're like, they look at each other and then they just dog on, they just take off on him.
They're like, did he use words? Yeah. And then they just get him.
I think, too, what's so funny about that scene is his family, and all of them are kind of the same way. Whereas Brad, you see him in a different light because he seems like he's successful.
Well, he's a lawyer, right?
Yes, and he's got his stuff together, and, he's going on all these vacations out of the country. And then you see his family, which is quite different from the vibe that you get from him at the beginning. And then you're like, oh, now you really get why he does not want to be with his family, and he doesn't want Kate to know exactly who he was prior to probably being successful.
True. And in that scene, when they're at Brad's father's house, it's when Kate really, with all the crazy, I mean, there is some real crazy stuff going on in that house, but what she focuses on afterwards and what she can't let go of is, wait, your name is Orlando? We've been dating 3 years and I don't even know your real name? She starts focusing on, wait, I don't know this guy like I thought I did, right?
Right.
Yeah,
That's the first sign there.
Also that, as Jill started to mention, it kind of brings in that he must identify more with his mother or be closer with his mother than those guys. And the only reason he's not around his mother is because she's dating his ex-best friend.
Yeah. Best friend from childhood.
Yeah.
But that kind of comes out later that they were tight.
Right.
So he was the more sensitive one.
in a really,
Not hard to be the most sensitive one in that family.
right.
Yeah,
Even though it was
very
in,
low
in an
bar.
odd way, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
And then what about when we go to, let's see, after they left Brad's dad's house, they move on to Kate's mom's, right? And the cougar den, so to say.
Yep.
And they're all the aunts and the grandma are
They have the
totally,
hots for Brad.
oh, they're just latched on. Ooh, a young man coming into the house. They're excited, you know. They're sitting there feeding. He even made the comment. He's sitting on the couch and they're like feeding him chocolate or truffles or whatever. And he said, I feel like an Indian prince. He's sitting here. They're all like all doting over him.
That was funny. His facial expressions in that house were funny.
Yeah. Well, and as they're sitting there giving him an eyeful because they're looking at a photo album of Kate when she was little and kind of giving him a real story of her past of, you know, struggling with being overweight as a child. People called her the
Cootie Kate.
Cootie Kate.
Well, how long did that last?
Yeah.
Just 7 years.
7 years, yeah.
Just K through
K through
6.
6, yeah. I mean, and they're like, what? You know, because again, she has the image that she has it all together and she's successful and she does at that point, but you can see that she did not have the ideal childhood, that's for sure.
I mean, to me, it's inspiring to awkward kids if you're an adolescent trying to find your way. There's
Well, I
hope.
mean, adolescence is always a little awkward, right? I mean, everyone has their stories
Yeah.
of that, but this was a really high degree of it. I mean, they let out the air of the jumpy when she was in school and teased her about it and trapped her in there, you know? I mean, like, things just, that's not normal, but it was definitely to extended version of the awkwardness and craziness that can go on during childhood.
Yeah, and then the next place they go is to, they go to the mother of Brad.
Brad's mom, yeah.
Brad's mom, yeah.
And we've kind of covered that. She's with his best friend growing up, and she wants to just hang out and play games. Taboo.
Yeah,
And that
I kind
just
of
creates
viewed
an
her a
open-
little hippie-ish.
Definitely.
Remember, she told the grandchild, don't eat my special brownies. Those are grandma's special brownies. You kind of got what she
Sure.
was saying.
Our house fit that too.
Yeah,
Yes.
definitely. And her wardrobe, she had, you know, the long flowing dress with the vest and the, I don't know. And then we get to, at the end, Kate's dad. But before they get there, Dad's house, before they get there in the
They have a
car,
heart to heart.
it all breaks loose, right?
Yeah, setting up the third act right there.
Yeah.
Just kind of laying it all out on the line in the Range Rover. Where are we headed here?
Yeah, she realizes, hey, we don't really know each other like we thought we did. And he's like totally fine with that, but she's not. And she starts changing, right? At that point.
Well, it just seems like because of their painful childhoods and their painful family dynamics and dysfunction, they're both afraid to have their own families. And I think that's very common, you know, and relatable.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
basically they had to face their fear, which everybody does, you know,
Yep.
to grow.
And she was starting to see that despite all of the hang-ups and issues and getting beaten up or getting teased or whatever comes along with all that, she might be willing to take it on anyway.
Right. I think she felt like she was missing out seeing some of her sister having children and even somewhat Brad's brother's wife and him having a baby.
Yeah, because when she was holding that little baby and banged its head into the cabinet door,
Yeah.
she was really bonding with it until she banged it into the cabinet door.
And that really wasn't her fault. That was the fault of
Him falling off the roof.
really Dallas and Denver's fault when you get right down to it.
Yeah.
Those guys were a problem.
Well, and I think she saw the dynamic when they're playing the games and Brad's brother and his wife, they were like on top of it. They
On
could
point.
read each other's mind. You know, the thing that I love. And, you know, they were just given little snippets that were going on and they were just rolling and they won that. And the other couples just had it together. And then it was their turn to try to guess what the other one's wanting them to guess. They were pretty clueless. Like, they didn't know each other that well. She's like, what am I most scared of? You know, the thing that I'm most scared of. And he's rolling off ideas. And she's like, no, spiders, and he had no idea.
You would think being together, just the two of them for 3 years.
Yeah, I mean, they live together. So it's like, so, you get to know each other pretty well. You would think you would know those little things, even if you weren't clear on their childhood. And I think in her eyes, she's like, wow, I don't really have what I thought I had.
Right.
But she sees that they do.
All right. Any more scenes we want to discuss?
No, I will have to say one that I did like was when Kate's at her dad's house at the end, and then Brad doesn't come in. He drives away and he goes, like we mentioned before, talks to his dad and realizes, whoa, I don't want to be like my dad, and goes back to Kate, and he shows up at Kate's dad's house, and she opens the door and just in his Vince Vaughn way starts rambling off about having kids and that he could be open to it and all that. I think
We
it
went
was
right into like how we're going to solve problems.
yeah. I think that was a great scene, the way they did that, and I liked how they were like, "This is so exciting to think of this, about having a family," because they started talking about, oh, and the kid can mow the yard, and they start getting on, and they're like, oh, they kind of saw family life in a whole new light, so to say. Oh, this could be exciting.
But in that light, it was funny because they tried to use it as more of a pro of not just because we're going to love this kid and it's going to be so much fun, what the kid can do for them.
For us, yeah.
Still a little selfish there.
Yes. Yeah.
Definitely.
So what y'all think about the ending?
I love the ending.
Yeah.
I love that it opens them up that no one's perfect and everybody has those.
They got exposed
Child-
again. They got exposed by the news lady again because they had the New Year's baby.
Oh, you're talking about when they at the very end
All
when
of
they
that.
had the baby.
No, all of
Yeah.
it. Kind of rolls into that part.
Right. Again, it goes back to being honest. Right.
They were still trying to keep
away from their family.
away from the extended family, but no chance.
Right.
Yeah. So what do we think happened the following Christmas? How did that go, Jill?
I'm going to say they went to their family.
Which house?
I'm going to say they tried to go to all of them. I do think that. I think maybe they would try to stay more away from Brad's family, but at the end of the day, I think they probably tried to do the 4 Christmases again.
I
Yeah,
agree.
no more satellite dish though.
Yeah. I think maybe they wanted to stay away from, and maybe this is what you meant, Brad's dad.
That's
It's
what I
like
meant.
the advice, he was like, oh yeah, that a boy, like it was good for him to leave Kate because she was open to the idea of having a family. But I think she really kind of valued what Brad's brother and his wife had. So
Yeah.
I think they did try to make the 4 Christmases again.
Yeah. I'm thinking 3 Christmases. I'm
3,
thinking
you're going to leave it off altogether?
Christmas Eve, stop by Brad's dad's house.
Get that over
Briefly,
with quick.
have a beer.
Yeah.
Because they have a baby, right? They have to get out of there quick. Show up with the baby.
Now they
Pay
have
your
a good
dues.
excuse to leave quickly.
Pay your dues there. That's another thing they didn't mention. A benefit of having that child is there's an excuse to leave on Christmas
Yeah.
Eve. Do that.
Without having to say mistletoe.
And then midday on Christmas Day, go see Brad's mom with Brad's best friend. Then spend Christmas afternoon into evening with Kate's family, who's probably all over at her dad's house by now. It seemed like they all got along, and that was a place where all the kids could run around and
That's where I'd want to be.
do your thing. Yeah,
That's
that
where
seemed
I'd
like
wanna be.
the best place.
Yeah.
It was nice. They saved the best one for last.
Yes, they did.
All right, quotable lines. Does anyone have any quotable lines they want to bring up?
The only one I can think of is mistletoe.
I was going to say, we've done that before. We're like, okay, we're not going to stay here long. Let's think of something to say to get us out. And we've jokingly said mistletoe.
You've used that one?
Because of this?
Yes.
Oh, that's great.
Oh, good. So not only did Brad learn something in this movie, but Jill and Hank also did. It's an educational film. Who knew?
I like, you can't spell families without lies.
That's good.
I thought that was pretty clever.
Yeah.
True. It's very true. That was a funny line, though.
And I'll go back to the end of the dance lesson scene where Vince Vaughn sums it all up with, "Congratulations on getting married. That sounds like a really cool thing." Totally sarcastic.
Yeah.
After he totally dismissed the institution of marriage for about 90 seconds of rambling.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's cool.
I mean, to each his own, you know.
To each
just-
his own. Yeah.
Hey, that's good for you. It's like the hat in Caddyshack. Remember?
Yeah.
Cut that part. He goes, he's making fun of, Rodney Dangerfield's making fun of a hat. And then Judge Smales comes up and puts it on. No, he walks in, he already has that hat. And he goes, he's like, look at this hat. It probably comes with a bowl of soup. And then he looks at him and goes, but it looks great on you. I love that line. Oh, that's me.
Well, I think moving on to the moral of the story here is pretty much maybe Hank said it best, like honesty is the best way to go for the best outcome, you know, even if it's uncomfortable sometimes. I think that no matter what, even though there's dysfunction in your family, it's still your family. And, you know, at the end of the day, when Brad was upset and he left Kate at her dad's house, he went back to his dad's house for some reason. Like, he went back to his family. And even though his dad didn't give him good advice, at least he was smart enough to realize it wasn't good advice. But at the end of the day, your family is your family. So I think that's pretty much the moral of the story. Does anyone have anything different?
No, I mean, I would agree too that, again, you know, about the lies, but also that they're trying to be perfect and they kind of shielded each other from their families because no one's perfect.
No. Right.
And so trying to put on an act or be something that you're not, it always comes out.
It just wasn't real.
Yeah.
You know, they had a relationship and it was somewhat close, but they weren't living on a deep level. And they finally decided to take it because they finally had the courage to do that.
I agree. I think once they learned about each other's flaws or whatever their
Background and flaws. Yeah.
in the end, after they got over the fact that their partner had not shared that with them, they probably felt closer to them. They felt like they knew them better.
Correct.
Yeah, we all have some past, I don't know if you want to call them demons, but things in our closet that we're
Yeah.
maybe not that proud of, but that's what makes us who we are, right? Sometimes you have to overcome things and it can make you stronger.
For sure.
All right, hot takes.
Oh, there has to be some good ones.
I have one somewhat. It's kind of refreshing to be reminded that California has rednecks too. We're here in flyover country and we always think, oh, you know, California, it's all wine and cheese and hanging out on the beach. But it's kind of cool to see the redneck side of California.
Yeah.
That's all I had.
I guess I had the one hot take that Brooke took exception to, which was that a little bitty brand new baby that was just a day or two old probably couldn't quite projectile vomit with that kind of velocity.
Oh, at the end.
At the very end.
Yeah.
And she was like, great, thanks for ruining the movie for me.
All right. Well, the parent guide, it is rated PG-13, and I feel like that's appropriate.
Yeah.
Just due to the content, maybe little kids can't watch it, but anyone over 13, I think, can handle this.
Yeah.
Agreed.
I would agree.
And they probably wouldn't want to if they're under 10.
Yeah,
It'd be
it wouldn't
boring
be-
to them.
yeah, it
It's a lot
wouldn't
of
be fun.
dialogue, a little action here and there of TV flying, but it's mostly adults talking.
Yeah, they wouldn't get it, right?
A lot of it. Some of it they wouldn't get.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
But still, it's pretty entertaining.
yeah.
But they don't need it.
All right, soundtrack and artists. So the ones I noted, we have Baby It's Cold Outside, Dean Martin and Martina McBride. That's toward the beginning. We have a recurring bits of the Nutcracker, Tchaikovsky, playing at the beginning, middle, and end. And then again, Dean Martin with I'll Be Home for Christmas. And that is at the crescendo when they're at Kate's father's house. And she's seeing all the kids, the little ones, and then the family sitting together at the couches and the kind of the warmer setting and about to talk to her dad about her future. That's playing. Not an exhaustive soundtrack.
No.
It's like 8 or 9 songs.
But a good one. I feel like these songs did a good job of putting you in the Christmas mood, even maybe more so than the visuals.
Right. The lack of decorations. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they're in the car a lot.
Yeah.
So you don't get,
Yeah, you don't really get to go around to a town like some Christmas movies have where you see like the town square or whatever with all the Christmas decorations. it's kind of like they're driving in the countryside where it's just trees, you know.
Right. Or crossing bridges or
Right.
where it's foggy. They're at an airport. It's just not conducive to it.
Right. Okay, so Jill, we're going to ask you to rate this from 1 to 5, 5 being the best, and then give us a reason why you rated it the way you do.
And it's a 2.6 on Letterboxd.
It's a what?
2.6 on Letterboxd. Where are you going?
I'm going to go higher than that. I mean, I think I would say this is probably a 3. And the reason why I would say that is it doesn't appeal to everyone. I think you have to be a more mature, like we were saying, for a Christmas movie. Because it's PG-13, and we said that's appropriate, and someone under that probably wouldn't understand it. But I really liked it just because the storyline behind it about, okay, no matter what your family's like, you can't really get around it. And if you do, then you realize that you've missed out by them not going and spending Christmas with their family. And it made them really realize that, okay, it's okay that we can have a family and not be like this, but still, I think, somewhat participate in the family, like more so with her family than his. But
He just needs to learn some fighting skills.
right.
That's the way I looked at it. He needs to train.
A lot.
Yeah, he needs
It's
to
not-
train and toughen up.
That's
because
years worth, though. That's the problem. It's not like he can
his
go
brothers
to a
are
6-week course.
far ahead of him. They really are. Probably even his nephews. But he could get there with some training. He could at least try to defend himself where he wouldn't be like a total takedown machine.
True.
All right, Hank. How would you rate this 1 to 5 and why?
So I'm going to go way higher than that. I would give it like a 4.2. As a Christmas movie or just as a movie are we talking about?
However you'd like.
So I'm going to say 4.2. It was really funny, but it was touching and it was profound to me at the same time. You know, it wasn't just a lighthearted comedy, but it had some moments that were super funny. I couldn't help but laugh, couldn't stop laughing. And it had some moments that were really touching as well. So, and it had a good moral and a happy ending. So I'm going to say, yeah, it was funny and I liked it a lot.
Okay, I think I'm going to go with a 2.9 because I like it, but there were some scenes that I felt like I wish they could have changed it a little bit, like I said at the beginning. I didn't like the way it started, but again, I know you feel like those have to be there to give us the background of the characters so that we know exactly where they are in their relationship. But I thought it was entertaining. I did laugh. It makes me laugh. And in the end, it's a good feel-good movie, which I know I've said before, I don't like a sad Christmas movie. I want to feel good in the end. So if it doesn't have a good ending, I'm out. It does give me that. So I feel like it is right there at 2.9.
I'm going to go with a 3.2. I think it's much better than the average Letterboxd rating of 2.6. I think I'm not sure where that's coming from. When I stack it up against these other films we've been watching, as far as being enjoyable and fun, great cast and good message at the end, 3.2. And I think people will be watching this one still in 20 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Jill, would you recommend this film? And if so, to whom would you recommend it?
I would definitely recommend this film for people to watch. And I would recommend it for, like I was saying, like young adult people for sure, especially those that have 4 Christmases.
Yeah, some people do. You're right.
Because they can kind of probably relate to all the different family dynamics. But it's funny and it also has a good message.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Thank you. And Hank, would you recommend it? And if so, to whom?
Yeah,
and
definitely.
Why?
I would recommend it. Like I said, I thought it was really funny, but also somewhat profound. The main characters, they chose to be courageous at the end. In spite of all the hardship that they had been through growing up with their families, they chose to create a family. I think that's a great message, particularly needed in our country now. And yeah, I think especially to young people, I think this is a great movie, but really just about all audiences, except for probably very young children, I would say. I highly recommend.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I watched it with my teenage son, and I feel comfortable enough watching it with him. So anyone who's older than 13, but probably on the older side of that rather than the younger teenage side, I think would enjoy it more just because of the content and the message of it.
Yeah, I would definitely recommend it. I would say a lot of kids have grown up with broken families or repaired families or whatever, however we want to phrase it. And this shows that it may not be perfect. It may not even be as lasting as we'd want. But I like how they showed that in the end, those parents who were remarried or recoupled had found a happy place. And you can't hold back and not take the chance because of what might happen. You got to take the ride and obviously choose wisely, but you can get to joy, and that's where we want to be.
Yeah, ultimately what people want to see is our loved ones happy, right? And you could definitely feel the love, even with the brothers. It was a weird way, but hey.
I think Dallas and Denver need to watch this film.
Yeah, maybe. All right.
I think Orlando needs to get some skills. He needs to get some fighting skills. I mean, he's got a tough family. He needs to adapt.
He needs to adapt to his family. That's funny. Well, Jill, what is your favorite holiday film? What's your go-to every season? You got to see it, or else it's just not the Christmas season without it.
I'm going to say Elf. Elf is just, it's funny too, but it's so lighthearted, and
Yeah,
I love Elf.
it's a good one.
Tough to beat. Mm-hmm. So you're telling me you're a big Jon Favreau fan here. You just didn't know it yet.
I know, I just didn't know.
Yeah, because he directed it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to have to go with Elf also.
All right.
Love Elf. It was really different than anything else before it when it came out, I felt like. With the animation in the beginning, it's like, okay, this is a fairy tale, obviously. But then it's realistic enough that you can believe it as it's going along, for me anyway. I can go along with the ride, and just, I really think it's a hilarious movie and good movie.
That's great. A lot of our people love that one.
Oh, yeah.
And it seems like you two might be compatible. Just saying. So, Hank, is there anything you'd like to promote? Business, socials, a cause?
Well, I'll mention my business, Hank's Automotive Repair. I have a business. It's in Smyrna, Tennessee. I repair European automobiles mostly.
All right. What's your favorite to work on?
I like BMWs a lot. I have a lot of experience working on BMWs.
Any particular model or year?
I don't want to say any particular model. I would say I don't really want to work on anything older than about 1990 though.
Okay.
Because I don't have much experience with those cars.
Okay.
Because I started
so
in
the
the
classic
90s.
realm. You don't want to go classic BMW.
Yeah.
You want to go more
Yeah.
modern day. Okay. Perfect.
Yeah.
All right. Well, if you live in Tennessee, you
Come
know where
see
to
me.
go if you have a BMW.
If you're near Smyrna.
That's right. All right. Well, thank you for joining this discussion of our 37th ranked film, Four Christmases. Please like, follow, and comment on this podcast.
Yes, please share and spread the word about Holiday Film Countdown. Thank you, Jill and Hank, for joining us. And thanks to all of our
Thanks for having
listeners.
us.
Glad to have you here.
Thank you.
Next week, we're moving on to our 36th ranked holiday film, which will take us to New Orleans.